gorgeous girls. Today I have a bit of a different video for you because I'm going to talk to you about my pregnancy. I said that I didn't really want to overload this channel with pregnancy videos, but all of you guys wanted me to talk about my pregnancy, so I thought I would make a few like bonus videos. So I'll carry on with my regular videos once a week, but sometimes there will be an extra video another day of the week talking to you about either my pregnancy or honeymoon or wedding, because I still have to talk to you guys about my wedding. I just still don't have the photos from the photographer. So today I'm going to talk to you about my first trimester. I'm already on my second, but I can talk to you quite in detail because I have this book. I bought this book on Amazon and it's called From Bump to Birthday. And it's basically a pregnancy and first year journal, and it's really good. It's so beautiful, it's not over the top, and I can write down here all my information and everything. And I have been writing weekly on this, so I can actually talk to you quite well about it, and like that I can read it and remember what each week sort of was like. Well, I'm going to start from the very beginning. Basically, I am so surprised that I got pregnant so quickly. I mean, I thought it would take about a year or two or something like that, because, you know, it could do, it happens to people. And, well, in our honeymoon, basically, I got pregnant. And when I got back, I couldn't believe it. I thought that maybe my period was being irregular or something like that. But one day I said, well, you know, I'm going to take a test. I didn't even take it with my husband because I thought it was going to be negative, but it was positive. So it was like, oh my God. I was so nervous, so excited. I remember I was teaching and I was like trembling and shaking and all that, but it was really amazing. And at first I was even a little bit worried because I was like, oh my God, I hope my husband is like happy that I'm pregnant so soon, because we had sort of talked about like the next year or following. But he was just completely over the moon. It took us obviously about a week to get used to the idea. At least it took me a week to get used to the idea. So yeah, so the first thing I did once I found out I was pregnant was call my GP and book an appointment. So I went to my GP and I thought she would do some sort of testing or blood test or all that, but no, she was like, oh, congratulations. She took my pressure and then she prescribed some folic acid and tablets and some vitamin sort of tablets. And she said to me, well, you go downstairs and you get your appointment to go and see the midwife. So that's basically what I did. But when I got downstairs, my appointment was not until about almost 2 months. So I was like, oh my God, I have to, you know, I'm gonna wait 2 months. I don't even know if I'm properly pregnant. So of course, I mean, I had a positive, so obviously it was pregnant, but you know. So I decided to go later on that same week to my private gynecologist. So I went to him and he performed a scan and we saw the very small little sac with a little thing there. I'll insert a picture so that you can have a look. And it was very funny because my husband didn't think he would be able to see anything, so he didn't actually go inside. And they kept calling like, come in and have a look. And he was like, no, it's okay. Because he didn't actually know that he was, you know, going to see like the little embryo sort of thing. I didn't tell my parents nor my parents-in-law immediately because my parents were in England and I didn't want to rush back or anything like that. So I waited for them to come back and we made a cake. Well, we had a cake made basically for us, and it had the picture of the very first ultrasound, and I wrote like April 2017, which is our due date and all that. And we had all my family round, so my parents and my parents-in-law round. And we made dinner and everything, and then at the end we brought out the cake, and at the same time each person had a plate with it said like granny, grandpa, and ours said mum and dad. The funny thing was that they didn't sort of get it at first, even though you could see like the ultrasound due date and the whole thing. My mother-in-law was the first one to realise, so that was quite funny because they didn't understand what was going on. And then as for my brother, I wanted him to find out the same day. So I had a cake sent to him and I called him on Skype and I told him the news. And it also had like the ultrasound. It said, you know, uncle and aunt, you know, 2017. At that stage, basically, I was 5 weeks pregnant. Obviously, this is calculated from the last day that you have your period. You don't really know when the baby is conceived. So really, it could be a little older or a little younger than that. And I started to write in my book on week 9. So this is week 9. And basically, I was feeling like almost normal. I did have like permanent sort of like period cramps. I did feel like I was about to get the period, but I never would. My breasts were very, very sort of tender and sore. At 9 weeks is when I had my first appointment at the hospital, and I expected to see the midwife, but in fact it was a gynecologist and she performed an ultrasound, and I got a picture of that and I couldn't believe it because the last one that I had had from my private gynecologist, it was just like a little circle, and now it seemed to have more of a shape of sort of like a baby. So we were really excited about that. Other than that, my life was completely normal. I felt completely normal, no nausea, no sickness. I do have to say in the morning, if I got up and I didn't eat immediately, I would feel a little bit, never enough to be nauseous or feel like throwing up or anything. And other than that, I crave pizza sometimes. That was the only thing that was a bit strange, because I mean I like pizza, but this was like, oh, I really want pizza. That's the only thing that I can say was like a real sort of pregnancy symptom. Week 10, we travelled to England. I have to say that I haven't stopped travelling or anything because I feel completely normal, and you know, I just need to make sure that I've got plenty of water to drink and also plenty of snacks, because I did feel hungry like most of the time. I have never felt hungry before. I used to think that I was hungry, but now I realise what hungry really means. So I would travel with little snacks and stuff like that, trying to be healthy, but it can be difficult because, you know, you just feel so hungry all the time. So we travelled to England. It was a family meetup with all my uncles and aunts and cousins, and at that moment I decided to tell them. So I told them all that I was pregnant and everybody was super happy. It was absolutely amazing. It was unbelievable. Week 11 was the week of the blood tests. That was horrible. I hate having a blood test. I don't usually have any, and they had to extract 12 tubes of blood, which was like a lot of blood. The thing is, obviously I couldn't eat anything, so I was absolutely starved. My appointment was for 11:15 in the morning, but I didn't realise that people could go before and basically skip the queue and go in front of you. So in the end, I had to wait 3 hours and I was just completely starved. We tried to tell them that I was pregnant and I needed to have my blood tests and that I was really hungry and not feeling well, but it didn't matter. I had to wait for my turn and it was terrible. So I had the blood tests lying down because I usually faint. I didn't actually faint because I was lying down, and that was that. After that I was completely white, completely white, and my mum took me to have a massive breakfast. And I remember it was really funny because she bought me all sorts of things. She bought me like yogurt pizza, a sandwich, donut, you know, hot chocolate, and it was like, okay. So yeah, that was quite cool actually, yeah. The day after my blood test, I got food poisoning. That was absolutely horrible. It was just really, really bad. And I was very worried because, you know, any illnesses when you're pregnant could be, you know, risky for the baby. So I went to my doctor, and basically for about 2 or 3 days, I could not eat anything. I could only like drink. And that was really terrible, especially when you're starving. But thankfully I got through that quite quickly. My mum also got the same food poisoning, so fun times together. Week 12 is a massively important week when you are pregnant because it's the moment from which you can sort of say, okay, we're less likely to have a miscarriage. And it's also when you have the very important screening. So they combine basically ultrasound with the results from your blood tests to tell you the risk of genetic diseases such as Down syndrome, Turner syndrome, trisomy 13 and things like that. So I decided to have it done both privately and through the Social Security, because I would feel a lot safer that way. You know, if you've got like two different opinions, you feel much better. So first off, I went to my private gynecologist, who was absolutely amazing. He spent over like 3/4 of an hour showing us on the ultrasound absolutely everything, explaining it. I could not believe how much the baby had grown. It was amazing, like really, really amazing. And at that moment, we thought we saw something, like, you know, whether it be boy or girl, but he didn't want to say anything. So, you know, we didn't know, basically. And from the very first moment, I have felt that I am having a boy. I don't know why, I don't believe in those things, but, you know, from the very first moment, I have thought, you know, this is a boy. This is definitely a boy. You know, call it mother's instinct, I don't know. But yeah. So anyway, he showed us everything, he did his measurements, he said the baby was a little bit larger, so maybe 3 days ahead, but they were not going to change the due date yet, and not much else, that everything seemed normal, so that was a-okay. As for the hospital ultrasound, that was a completely different experience. It was shocking after having had the other one, because he did the same ultrasound in 6 minutes, like really, really fast. Did not even say hello, did not explain anything. I mean, you know, I could have been looking at an alien and he wouldn't have said anything. But anyway, he said everything, at the very end, he said everything is normal, thank you, goodbye, sort of thing. So I was glad that I had been to the private doctor too, because otherwise it would have been a bit of a letdown. And at the hospital, they don't give you any pictures or anything at all. So thankfully, I've got the pictures from the private gynecologist to show you, because otherwise I just wouldn't have anything at all. Week 13 was an absolutely horrible, horrible week. We had to go to the hospital to hear the results of the ultrasound, because you see the sonographer doesn't tell you anything, although he said everything's okay, but he doesn't actually talk to you about it. So we went to the gynecologist to hear the results of the ultrasound plus the blood test to see what the risk was for genetic you know, problems, and everything seemed okay. At first she was like, yeah, you know, you've got really low risk for Down syndrome, really low risk for blah blah, and then suddenly she said, well, the thing is that your level of alpha fetoprotein is a bit higher than we expect, so your risk for neural tube defects is not as low as the rest of the things. It's still above like the limit, but it's not as low as like the others. And she said it like that, you know, and I just felt such a panic at that moment. I was like, oh my god. So she said, no, we're gonna cancel the 20-week ultrasound just in case, which made me feel even like more stressed, and we're gonna do an ultrasound at 16 weeks to see if there are any like neural tube defects. These are things like spina bifida and things like that. And then I think she saw that I was like super worried, and she said, oh, but don't worry. I was like, well, how can you just drop a bomb like that and tell me not to worry? The worst was that I had to wait for 4 weeks for that ultrasound, and I have to admit that from that point onward, I was incredibly stressed and worried about it. Even though I was trying not to worry, deep down I couldn't stop worrying. So even though that was the end of my first trimester, and I had planned on telling like you guys on social media and things like that about my pregnancy, at that point I decided to wait until I got the results of the 16-week ultrasound to see if everything was normal or not. So that is why it has taken me so long to tell you guys that I was pregnant, because basically I had such a scare. But anyway, that is the end of my first trimester, the first weeks. I have to say that I never believed that being pregnant would be such a breeze in my case. I've had no nausea, you know, no vomiting, nothing like that, no pains. The first trimester I had very tender breasts, that is true, and I had cramping basically most of the time. Not very strongly, but just, you know, sort of like a feeling of uncomfortable. I did have a lot of like bloat and like gases and stuff like that, which can be painful sometimes. But other than that, fine. Just feeling really, really hungry all the time and also very, very tired. I mean, I've never had naps, and I used to have a nap every day at midday, which my husband loved, and just overall like feeling sleepy and tired. So that was basically my first trimester. I hope you enjoyed hearing about it. I love it if you press thumbs up if you like this video, and you can ask me any questions below and I can answer you if I know the answer. And well, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I will be making another video about my second trimester and maybe a reveal, gender reveal and stuff like that. So make sure you are subscribed for more videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!